extensive study, we found that people made healthier choices. People were able to have a stress-busting effect. We find pretty much regularly in network care the responses people have are ones where they really are able to be present in their life more consistently with less of a stress response and more of a I can handle this response, of what I call a transform response. There's an intelligence called the upper mental energetic intelligence. It's one of the organizing intelligences of life. And its role is to really create the ability to think in more conceptual ideas, to optimize things. It requires the use of both sides of the cerebral hemispheres of the brain. It revolves the frontal lobe of the cortex and more executive functions. It's important to be aware that as soon as the stress hormones hit the frontal lobe of the cortex, it's difficult to have enough energy to organize that higher executive function, because to protect ourselves, we can't wait the millisecond or second to upload the files to the cortex. So frontal lobe of the cerebral cortex, through its organizing intelligence, that is, its innate intelligence that organizes the function, is responsible for the awareness of the subtle cues of the interrelationships of the body. If it has symptoms, its associated emotional states, the choices you've made, base other systems converge onto here, and it has to first get up to the cortex by not staying in the emotional brain and not staying in the thalamus and doing automatic behavior, coming up with a constructive choice where it's booted back up to the cortex. The cerebral lobe of the cerebral cortex is associated with conscious choice. I choose this. And the conscious choice to optimize and make the best of it, sorting through multiple perspectives, or at least two perspectives, if not three. It allows you to redirect your attention and see what is the bigger picture. So what's the best choice I can make? So now the frontal lobe of the cortex, deprived of some blood supply, or the second stress hormones hit the system, or the second, what happens is you have adverse mechanical tension in the spinal cord producing a stress response with an ischemia in the cord. An ischemia occurs in the cord within a few seconds of stretching of the spinal cord, and that again, further, in order to protect the brain and spinal cord, it goes into defense physiology. And there's stress physiology. There's decreased function. It's more difficult to see the bigger picture in your life, to be creative, compassionate, loving. We go into automatic defense posture. We resort to the lower mental energetic intelligence, one level lower, which involves more of the thalamus and the less executive functions of the cortex. And what happens is we go into those things that we're conditioned for, our conditioned brain, or we might say our monkey brain. I believe that the subluxation complex is part of this checking out. It's part of the checking out of the higher brain, and it redirects us into a lower defense set of physiology that helps us survive and helps protect us from the time it may take to sort out different decisions. It's not the best time to say, is this the best choice, as compared to run or attack. Now, we wear our stress response as what I call defense posture. Defense posture is a way of a sensory motor strategy maintaining the stress. And the neck may come forward of the body, stretching the cord more. The shoulders may come forward. You have an alteration in the spinal curves. And at this point, a person lies on the table and it's like a cat ready to pounce. What happens is the hypervigilance of the sympathetic nervous system, and there may also be a deregulation of the parasympathetic nervous system. Now, we think of stress physiology as defense posture. It's difficult to make healthier choices. It's difficult for us to choose. We generally react or react to our circumstance. We tend to think that our circumstance is our reality, or our problem is our reality. It's difficult for the body to make effective structural changes. It's difficult to perceive, to process, or verbalize your body sense, your emotions. As the ability to find that part of the body that's associated with a condensed experience we'll talk about soon, or that carries the alienated, isolated, abused, or denied residence, it cannot find it. It doesn't have access to it. If nerve B does not receive the signal, what actually happens is it sets off a genetic response of death, not only of that cell, but everything in that a tract going up to the brain and down. So basically, it actually creates a surgical amputation. Now, pain is a way of keeping the system alive still at a very low level. But what happens is we basically disassociate from the area that is associated with energy or information we can no longer experience. Now, recovery from the defense posture and subluxation is difficult or impossible unless we get more information about the system from multiple systems. And to do that, we need more available energy. The challenge is the energy has been bound up in a postural state that's not efficient, in fixation, in defense posture. It's taking energy to keep it in that position. Your ability to heal is reduced at this particular point. There are physical anchors to stressful situations or traumas which are not safe for the higher brain to be aware of. This is a brilliant short-term strategy to give the more primitive brain structures and primitive mind and body structures the ability to rapidly decide about response to environmental stress. So we have the bioenergetic intelligence, which is about survival, and we have the emotional energetic intelligence about your instantaneous reaction pre-rationally before the mind, and with a lower thinking mind that's conditioned in how to respond good, bad, right, wrong, with basically the development of a child to maybe teenagehood. This strategy is a destructive, potentially lethal long-term strategy in which we live less than our human evolutionary potential allows for. Condensed experience is a term that refers to an experience that has not been able to be accepted or experienced fully. The concept goes like this, and I'm going to tie it into the concept of acoustic wave, of D.D. Palmer's concepts of tone, and the 5 phases in network. This is the model of how we check out, how we're defended, and how we go into defense, and how we go into a lower level of existence in order to survive. First, we have an experience we can't experience. That means we need too much energy to organize the information, and we don't have it available. Therefore, we cannot use the upper mental intelligence. We default to the lower 3 energetic intelligences. The lower mental, this or that thinking, content thinking, conditioned thinking, or emotional reaction or survival. How does this happen? The way this happens is going back to D.D. Palmer's concept that tone is the basis of life. And between that and the concept of 31 steps of a normal complete cycle that Stevenson referred to of Palmer's concepts, that the connection between the brain and the body is predominantly vibrational. And please be aware of this. When we see something, what are we really seeing? Vision. Where there's a change in the photon energy in the field around us. That's really a subtle energy change that hits the retina, affects the rods and cones of the eyes, affects the retina, and then depending on how it distorts the physiology and how it distorts our perceptual field, we interpret it as meaning something visually. How do we smell something? Well, there's dissolved particles in the atmosphere, and we're responding to the biochemical response of the dissolved subtle energies, subtle molecules. You may have smelled a skunk or an offensive odor, and there's almost no molecules there, but it's able to stimulate a defense strategy, and we call that smell. What is hearing? Hearing is a change in kinetic molecular activity of the atmosphere that hits our eardrum. It results in a vibrational change, a mechanical change in the eardrum. The mechanical change is interpreted to a bioelectrical signal, and then we hear. So what is taste? Dissolved substances that respond to taste receptors. So basically, all of our sensory system is really interpreting vibrational and energetic changes of environment. That's what our senses are. Helps us pick up subtle energy changes in this field around us, and the mind interprets this as having some solid reality. Now let's continue from here. If there's a stretch in the neuroskeleton, which I feel is the pattern associated with the facilitated vertebral subluxation or adverse spinal cord tension, or tension in what we call the neural control subsystem of the spinal integrity subsystems, and we'll visit all these concepts. What we're speaking about here now is that there's an alteration of tension. Now, T.T. Palmer said molecular oscillation is the basis of consciousness. If you stretch a nerve, you alter the vibrational wave going through the nerve. In 1986, I developed what's called the phasing system, a priority system for addressing the major vertebral subluxation associated first with the adverse spinal cord tension or the stretching in the spinal cord, or equivalent to what B.J. Palmer referred to as multiple spinal cord tensions. And what happens is I found that there are 5 basic mechanical tension patterns. Each of these 5 tension patterns stretch the neural structures and therefore alter the vibrational communication going through the system, which actually is primary, which is called an acoustic wave, and the actual bioelectric phenomenon is secondary. And this has been backed up by some recent literature. Research with a network wave has demonstrated it's what's called an acoustic wave, and other research by Danish researchers have pretty emphatically demonstrated that the synapse and communication through the axon is an acoustic wave. What is an acoustic wave? Well, similar to sound, when you hear something, there's a pulse pressure wave. There's the pressure of the atmosphere against the eardrum. That range of acoustic wave that we can experience as sound, we call sound, okay, and is hearing. But acoustic wave carries energy and information. A tsunami is an acoustic wave carrying information from one part of the sea to another part and onto the land. Why am I mentioning all of this? Well, when the system can no longer experience an experience because it doesn't have enough energy to organize the information, or there's too much energy and the system neurologically, physically, mechanically cannot handle the amount of energy, the body responds by stretching the spinal cord and neural structures and stretching the meninges and stretching the tissues. Now, since most of the cells of the body have 3 to 9 separate nerve endings, what happens is not only is the brain and spinal cord stretched, but the tissues are stretched. If we stretch a tissue of the body, we alter its surface membrane, we alter its electrical potential, we alter what combined to the surface, and the cell membrane is actually the brain of the cell, where the nucleus is actually the storage depot for it. So consistent with this, when we stretch the spinal cord, we have other elements, and we alter the autonomic, the sensory, and the motor component, and stretching tissues actually alter